Before we start, I'd like to direct your attention to the timeline of this video down at the bottom of the screen. You'll see we've broken this video into sections, so if you're interested in a particular question, feel free to check out the description under this video and jump to whichever question you like. Hello and welcome everyone to our Croí Connects series, where we aim to get answers to all your burning cardiovascular health and lifestyle related questions. This week, we are delighted to have Susie Birney joining us. Susie is the chairperson of the Irish Coalition for People Living with Obesity and secretary of the European Coalition for People Living with Obesity. So thank you so much, Susie, for joining us. So great, so jumping straight in. For anyone who may not know you, could you tell us a bit about your journey so far and how you've come to be where you are today?
Great, no problem. Well, my name is Susie Birney, as you said, and I'm 45 years old and I'm from Dublin. I was a very active child, played a lot of sports, did martial arts. I was a lifeguard and I was a swimming teacher for many years. It was clear from a young child that I had problems with food that went beyond fussy eating. And I have an eating disorder called ARFID, and that's Avoidance Restrictive Food Intake Disorder. And it's not very well known. It's only gone into the DSM since 2014, I think. And this means I can react basically violently to food, to new foods. I can shake, I can shiver, I can't try new foods based on the texture, the taste, the smell, and it's kind of complex. But this led to huge anxiety as a child and a lot of rows. You can imagine you're sitting at that table, you finish your dinner and you've got to eat your vegetables. And so I can't eat any vegetables, any fruit, no hot, most hot drinks are liquids. I can't, so no sauces, no spices, and I don't even like food touching on the plate. So it's quite complex, but it led to a lot of anxiety as a child and a lot of not feeling normal and afraid to go on play dates and afraid of going anywhere out for meals because what would I be able to eat? And so that was one part of my history. And then I was very active, as I said, and I had a serious knee injury just as I turned about 20. And at this point, I had to stop all sports, except I was allowed to swim for a bit, but I wasn't able to be active at all. And I also had sort of the anxiety, I would imagine at this point, led into depression, which was something I never liked saying and speaking about, because it affected me in waves, maybe a couple of times a year, and I would put on the brave face and try and put on the smile, but it was quite exhausting. So I think all of these together combined led to my weight creeping up over the years. And I'd say between age 20 and 35, my weight crept up to probably my heaviest of 25 stone. I had tried Weight Watchers, herbal remedies, Xenical. I had cognitive behavioral therapy. I did hypnotherapy. I did neuro-linguistic therapy. I mean, there wasn't anything I didn't try, first of all, for the food, and then also for my weight. And I would lose weight and then it would come back on. And then I would lose it again and I would regain more each time, which was quite difficult. So by 2009, I was referred to the weight management service in Dublin, in Loughlinstown. I had been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And at this point, I was quite scared and upset. And I also had polycystic ovaries, which now I know played a huge part in my weight gain, but didn't at the time. I had severe sciatica pain. I had an umbilical hernia, which I had 2 operations on to have fixed. So from 2009, I suppose, from being a fit, active person who carried extra weight, I went to having a lot of problems in the 1 year. So I went to the weight management service, and I have to say the multidisciplinary team is vital part of the journey. It really is. And that was a huge part in getting me ready for bariatric surgery. So I had a gastric bypass in 2015 and my diabetes reversed on the day. I'm off all medication, even the retinopathy, which I was told was done just in time, which was fantastic. And at this time, one of the major influences for me was the patient support group. The Loughlinstown Hospital, we had a patient support group that's private just for patients. And talking with others, it really made you understand what it was like. Your family, your friends, even your healthcare providers that you talk to, I don't think can fully get it. Being part of this support group was a game changer for me. And I became one of the admins of the group and started coming up with ideas. And I suppose many people think that people living with obesity don't try much, and we did. You know, we went on family walks around different places around Ireland. We'd go to castles or, you know, famous parks. And there was one stage, I think 42 of us turned up, and some people could walk like 5 kilometers. They were post-surgery maybe, or post-weight loss. And some people could only walk literally 25 meters with an oxygen attached and a walker frame. But we encouraged each other all the same as a group, and it was fantastic support. We also held healthy lunch meetings where we would book the room in the clinic, and we'd all bring our different recipes, and we'd lay them all out, and we'd share them, and we'd talk about how we made them and what we did. We did that 2 or 3 times a year. We started up a buddy system where we asked people to say where they were planning on walking or swimming in the next week or two, and somebody would join them and meet them for the first time, and they'd go together. So the support was absolutely fantastic. And to be honest, I didn't actually realize, but that was probably the point when I began advocating, and I didn't actually even know what advocacy was.
So interesting, such an interesting journey, and it's been a long journey, but this sounds like the support from other people like is just so important. And advocacy is, a lot of us might not know, like you said, you didn't really even know that you were doing it at the time. So for, can you tell us what it is to be a patient advocate? What does it involve?
Well, patient advocate is using your voice, and sharing your experience. I always thought advocacy was for just organizations. I didn't realize that each individual is an advocate in themselves. So I became an Irish patient representative with the European Association for the Studies of Obesity, that's EASO. And that I was an Irish rep for their patient council in 2016. Now they have they had representatives from maybe 20 different European countries at the time. And I also became a patient representative with the Association for the Studies of Obesity Ireland. And that's when I started to use my voice to share my experience and to raise awareness about the lived experience of obesity. In 2019, the Patient Council in the EASO became independent as a patient-led organisation, and that's the European Coalition for People Living with Obesity. And I became the organisation secretary then when that happened. I was absolutely honoured to be asked. I was incredibly nervous when I started in 2016. I used to worry about saying the wrong thing, really worry about saying the wrong thing, until I realized my own shared experience isn't wrong. It happened to me, but it's about how you share your experience. It's not about giving out. I think some healthcare professionals, or maybe even society, people think that patients wanted to complain, or they're being negative, or that they're looking for sympathy. And that's not what we wanted. We just want to take our experiences, share and learn from them, and then create better practice going forward. Changes if necessary, and then we will see a better health outcome for people living with obesity. I began to learn more about the science of obesity, about why it actually is a complex chronic disease. I never knew that genetics, biology, environmental factors played such a part towards obesity. As I said earlier, I didn't know my polycystic ovaries played part in my obesity. And I solely blamed my obesity on myself. And I always just wanted to feel like normal, like other people. Why have I no willpower? And why can't I keep this weight off?
Mm-hmm. That's so powerful. And having people advocating for people living with obesity is so powerful. And we're hearing a lot more about it in the media, and specifically more about obesity stigma in the news and on social media. And a lot of people don't really realize what it is. So could you tell us, maybe explain what is obesity and weight stigma?
It's quite detailed, so I'll probably just try and do it quickly. But I mean, you've got weight bias and you've got weight stigma, but weight stigma is the negative weight-related attitudes, beliefs, assumptions, and judgments in society that are held about people living with obesity and larger bodies. The manifestation of weight bias is through harmful stereotypes that people with obesity, that they're lazy, unintelligent, non-compliant is a regular one, lacking in self-discipline, lazy, sloth. There's many words that are used for people living with obesity that are stereotypes, and this can happen in different ways. And one example I can share with you is one of our members, Maura, and she's agreed that I can share this with you. Years ago, she worked in the civil service, and she went for a promotion, and I don't know the inner workings of the civil service, but she knew she should have been next in line, and she was well capable of the job. And she went for the interview, and she was pulled aside by her supervisor afterwards and told, Maura, you just didn't get it. You need to lose a bit of weight. We don't want to put you in the face. We don't want to put you in front of the public. And if you could just, lose a little bit of weight. And she was devastated. She never went for another promotion again within her company. So that's one direct example. And we've another guy on who would tell you that he's gone for job interviews, and he walks in that door and he can see the interviewer's eyes drop and look to his body, and they don't look at his face, and they say to him, "Oh, we're very sorry, you know, you didn't make the interview today, the job is gone, we're very sorry about that." And he sees the job advertised 2 weeks later again, you know, and they just can't see beyond his weight. So there are two direct examples which are quite upsetting, and you can imagine roll forward in a person's life that they don't, you know, it breaks their confidence, it affects them actually getting a job, you know. So yeah. Then we have stigma on social media, which I think we all are familiar with. It's incredibly harmful. There's these memes that show like people bulging out of their clothes, or, you know, look what COVID has done to me, as if it's the worst thing ever, when, you know, most average people have either excelled during COVID because they've had time to you know, do things, or the opposite, you know. So, and then we have media articles that show like, and they could be a fantastic factual article, but they have a picture, a headless image, or, you know, somebody shoving a burger that's too big for their mouth into their mouth. And these are highly stigmatizing, and they feed into what society believes people living with obesity are like, that it's self-harm. And so probably the most damaging form of stigma for people living with obesity is in the healthcare setting.
Yes, and that was a big question that I would have for you. And through our work, like, we've heard so many examples of people maybe going to their doctor or their healthcare professional with symptoms. It could be a sore finger, and the symptoms being brushed off as, oh, you just need to lose weight. And then people, same as with the job interview, being so upset after that they don't want to go back and engage because they've just been brushed off. So like, how can we address this going forward?
It's very difficult, and we really have an awful lot of stories that we can relay. I mean, myself, I remember, and what's really, actually, it is so harmful. I went for a test for my kidneys when I was only 22 maybe, and I was told to fast from the day before, and I did. And me being a nervous person, I was told to fast from 8 p.m. and I think I fasted from 6 p.m. just to make sure. Turned up for the appointment and was on the bed, and the nurse, she had this device that she had to put into my side, and she dug it into me, and she lifted up kind of some of the excess weight there, and she really hurt me. And she said, "Well, it's obvious you didn't fast like you were told. You're really not, you know, following your instructions." And I had, and I got so angry, and I said, "I have." And she said, no, you can't have. And she says, "I can't actually do this test. You're too big. And she was really hurting me. So the exam was actually postponed. She said, "We're going to have to bring you back another day and get different equipment for you." And I never went back. Literally, I never went back. And luckily there was nothing obviously seriously wrong, but I never went. And I'd remember her face if I passed her in the street today. And I was 22 and I'm 45 now. So this is the effect it has. We have another girl who recently now, 2 weeks ago, Catherine, she went for a gynecological appointment, and she was sitting waiting in with her healthcare provider, and he was giving her results, and he said, "Well, this is rather embarrassing for you because it is all the cyst we have is to do with your weight." And she was mortified, absolutely mortified. She left and she joined one of our online support meetings, and she cried. She got upset about it, and I'm getting upset about it thinking about it.
Oh no.
You know, because
it's so difficult.
This is what it does to you. And she didn't want to go back either. And she said, "But actually, I want him to know how he made me feel, because I need to go back. And I have another appointment with him in a couple of weeks." So we helped her write a letter that she sent. And it was very polite. And it was just telling him what stigma is and how it affected her, and that she will turn up for her next appointment. But she just wanted him to know how she felt. You know, and this is what we need to change. It's the narrative that's used, that, you know, words matter and attitudes matter. And when you go in for an appointment and they want to take your blood pressure, and the blood pressure cuff isn't big enough, and they tut at you and say, "Well, hang on while I go and get another one," and you're sitting 20 minutes and they come back and they're tugging at your arm then in anger because their day has been upset because of you, that's not good enough. That's just not good. And that's stigma directly in the healthcare setting. And that we're hoping that we're breaking that. And I think raising awareness through our campaign days is raising awareness about these issues.
It is. I think it's having a huge impact, and even people hearing other stories and that letter, that's such a good idea. So I think, you know, that's so powerful, brilliant. And that was one of the next questions. Is the other thing is that the blame, like, and we can see from your story that there's so many things, your eating disorder, your injury, everything there's so many factors that have an impact on our weight, yet the blame is placed on the person. Like, what advice would you have for someone who has been led to believe that it's their fault and they're in this mindset when it's not their fault?
It is very hard to change. And as I said, actually, our awareness campaigns is something we're trying to do, because it is very hard to change that mindset when you've had years of believing it. It's called self-internalized stigma. It's one of the forms of stigma. And it's where you blame yourself. If you tell somebody long enough that they're not good enough, they do believe it. And when you're hearing it from a healthcare provider, from society, and even your family at times, you start to believe it. And it's hard to break down those barriers. I mean, I went even for an appointment with my own GP, and in discussing things, he said, "Oh, I see you've regained weight after your surgery," and something about, and I said, "Well, that's why obesity is a chronic disease." And he said, oh no, I don't buy into that. And I said, "Why not?" And he said, "Well, that takes away personal responsibility." And I said, "But I have never stopped taking personal responsibility, but I do need professional help as well." And that's the difference, is that, I told you earlier about the family walks we've gone on, all the different methods that people have tried. Obesity, and even people who in the overweight category, it affects 60% of Irish people. That is not for no reason. It is a complex disease, but people don't understand that. And if it didn't affect that many people, there wouldn't be all these weight clubs and solutions, and crazy ones and good ones, and treatments, bariatric surgery, or whether it's pharmacotherapy, whatever you need. And that's all people need to know, is that actually they need to find the right treatment for them, not that it's their fault. And it's going to take a long time to change. You wouldn't tell somebody with asthma just to breathe a bit better, or you wouldn't tell somebody who got skin cancer, just don't go out in the sun. So you can't just tell somebody living with obesity, just stop eating and go and walk a bit more, and you don't tell people quite often some of the problems that you have. I didn't talk about pain much, and the sciatic pain, and even now with weight regain, and people are saying, "But you've had surgery, you've done it, why are you gaining weight?" I still have a food disorder. I still can't eat vegetables, and I have swollen legs, and my legs would be paining me. So I can't simply just go out and walk, but I don't want to tell people about it, because they worry and they get concerned, and they say, "Well, what can we do to help you?" And well, I am looking for help, but let me do it in my way, on my terms too. So the self-internalized stigma is quite difficult, and it'll take time to change, but that's one thing we're working on. We'll get there.
Brilliant. And again, like you said, with other conditions and diseases, there's most of the time no blame placed on the person, whereas when obesity is a disease too, the blame is there. So brilliant. That work is amazing.
Like, if you think how crazy it is that somebody could go out and do the most extreme sports and fall and break their leg doing those extreme, that most would say, "Are you crazy doing that?" But yet they go into hospital and they get effective, timely treatment. But some obesity, it's like, "Oh, you just ate too much. Just stop eating, will you?"
It's
when you say
awful.
it as black and white as that, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It's so difficult. And another comment I would often hear from people is, "Oh, like some comments from family members and co-workers and friends, even if from the person they're seemingly well-intentioned, like, why don't you try this? Oh, I tried this. I know somebody tried this diet and this." Of course, people have tried things. So is there any advice you would have for someone, maybe in a polite yet assertive way, to just, can you please stop making those comments? They're not helpful.
Yeah, again, it's raising awareness. Like, I can say directly that my own mum used to send me articles saying gastric banding gone wrong. And I had to say to her, "I'm having a gastric bypass. I'm not having a band." You're getting scared about something that you don't know enough about. And as soon as she did, she understood it better. Because quite often I would go into my family home and I'd be like, "Susie, will you ever stop eating bread?" And I'm like, "Okay, so what else do you want me to substitute it with when I don't have many options?" And it's the simplified suggestions get you angry, because you're thinking, one, this person doesn't understand. I have tried. I have been trying. Like, going back to Catherine's example of when she went to that gynecologist, he didn't know that she's actually attended a weight management service, that she's already lost some weight, that she actually has counseling, that she actually has been attending a healthy, well-living program from the HSE. She attends ICPO support meetings every week, and she's one of the most supportive people now for others, and he knows none of that, but yet he judged her and said, "This is embarrassing about your weight." That's got to change. So with family members, it's hard because they are well intentioned, but hearing things like, "I'm up at night, not able to sleep, worried about you," that doesn't help. That doesn't help. So positive and negative narrative. When somebody comes to you and says, "Have you not tried?" Why did you not do? Did you not know? It puts this barrier up. It puts a wall up that you retreat and you say, this person does not understand what this is like. So instead, we would encourage people to say things like, have you tried? Did you know? And you can still relay the information, but it's in a whole different tone of how you start that conversation. And that goes for healthcare providers or family members. It's a positive versus a negative narrative that can change the whole outcome of a conversation. And it is hard. And again, our awareness campaigns and sharing information and what you're doing today goes a huge way to sharing this information that people will understand and say, I never thought of it like that. Because with it being 60% of people with overweight or obesity, that's your cousin, your sister, your colleague, your friend. It's somebody you know in your own circle. And try and think of how you're making them feel by what you're saying. I know you don't intend to maybe hurt, but you've got to think about it. We've one girl who told us that she was trying really well and she'd lost a bit of weight and she was making slow positive changes and changing her outlook and working hard at it, but you know, feeling different this time because she wasn't going all or nothing. So she said to her husband, do you know, I feel like just a little bit of chocolate. I don't keep it in the house. I feel more in control of it. Could you just go down to the garage and get me something? And he came back with a 6-pack of bars and she was like, oh word, you know, he's not getting it. Like, you know, so it's difficult and it'll take time, but we just keep trying to raise awareness.
Brilliant. And I think from this whole conversation, the big thing has been the awareness, but also the support you can get from other people who are going through the same thing. Like you said, the lived experience is one of the most powerful things. So just for anyone who's listening and has been interested in the groups you've been talking about, how can they find you or what supports are out there? And maybe if someone wants to become an advocate themselves, how can they go about that?
Great. Well, as I mentioned way on there earlier, the weight management service in Loughnstown has their own support group. The Galway service has their own support group. They're small Facebook groups, they're private. And then there's ourselves, the Irish Coalition for People Living with Obesity. We have a Facebook page, we're on Twitter. We are going to be working on a website soon. That's our next step. We're only newly incorporated since last summer, so we're getting there. But we hold online support meetings every week. And we would have different topics. It could be about surgery one week. It could be about, you know, how to cope with pain. It could be, and we invite healthcare professionals. We've had many visitors to our sessions. We have every 3 weeks, we have a physiotherapist joins us and runs through exercises to do at home. This has been going on. We're on meeting number 56 now that we started last year when COVID hit.
Wow.
Not only did this meet the need for, because many different support groups would meet personally, and that obviously couldn't happen, but there was many people who couldn't attend these services because it was too far for them, or they physically have barriers that they couldn't. So we're reaching out to people who can actually access this support from around the country. So our details will be there. You'll find us easily, ICPO online, and support is absolutely key. I remember one time one girl came onto one of the support groups and she was so upset. She'd been at a family occasion and she said, and I broke a chair. I cannot believe I broke a chair. Within an hour, 35 people came on to say, so did I. So did I. I did that. And everybody relayed their stories. There was kind of like a little bit of tears, a little bit of, you know, acceptance and understanding that this can happen. And in actual fact, people who aren't with heavier weight can break chairs too. Take away the shame. Don't be worried. You know, this is what this is like. We can understand each other. We can support each other. And it's not that we want anybody's sympathy. We just want people to understand what this is like. It's difficult. Yeah.
Brilliant. That sounds amazing. And the fact that you switched it to virtual, I know with COVID, but it suits so many more people and people living around the country. So we'll put links to those under this video. But thank you so much, Susie. It's been such an interesting conversation and raising awareness and just hearing the work you're doing and your journey. And it's just been brilliant. So I suppose to give you the last word, what would be maybe if you had a key message or something to say at the end?
Well, I suppose just when we think of most recently on World Obesity Day, the theme was addressing obesity together. And that's that we all play a part. Patients supporting each other, what you're doing here, healthcare professionals understanding, our families understanding. I think it's just we all play a part, and if we can understand it together and address it together, we'll make huge improvements.
Excellent, I agree.
Thank you for having me here. Now I'm honored to have been asked and share these experiences. Thank you.
You're welcome, and we're so grateful to have you on today. So thank you very much.
Thank you.